Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure you've both heard of and seen the two gentlemen here, Anant Goenka and Puneet Chhatwal. Both, in a way, represent, to my mind, brand civilizational legacy. Ultimately, brands are not built by marketeers. They're nurtured, nourished, engaged with, and heaped affection on by consumers. Any marketer or any advertising joker who will tell you that, oh, I built this brand, either walk away or in the good old days you could slap him when there was no social media. Brands are all about engagement which the consumer accepts. The love, the stickiness that the consumer has for the brand. Both these brands have survived three things. They've survived economic pressure, they've survived social change, and they've survived political upheavals. Anant wasn't perhaps born when his late grandfather took up cudgels against the draconian emergency that was implemented on June the 25th, 1975, by a diminutive, very polite, lovely lady called Indira Priyadarshini Gandhi. She hurtled this country into silence, freedom of the press into oblivion, and trampled on the rights of every Indian. The fundamental right of every Indian is not just to breathe, but to know. That's the ultimate benefit of journalism. They allow and they create platforms for you to know, for you to learn. Ramnath ji led this fight against the most severe of odds. And I'm delighted that Anant has not steered away from the course and that the Indian Express continues to be, to my mind, the vanguard of journalism. You know, I've always said a newspaper is not read for the news that you can get from anyone. A newspaper is read for its opinions and for its steadfastness on being able to exhibit, exude, and impanel in our hearts the truth. That's why the Express is different. Many newspapers have given way to, other kinds of reportage so that their op-ed pages are free for advertising, so that you can see a chocolate ad rather than worry about crimes against humanity. And I think papers like the Indian Express have proven that you can be small, but you can be impactful. You don't have to be the biggest in order to be the most effective. You don't have to have the largest circulation or the highest profits or warring family members in order to be noticed. You can do all of that with certitude, through silence, and through the conviction not just of your courage, but of your pursuit of the truth. In many ways, Puneet Chhatwal represents a legacy which is now more than about 110, 112 years old. This was also a hotel formed out of rebellion. When Jamshedji Nasirwanji Tata was told that there were hotels in India where Indians and dogs wouldn't be allowed, he set out to create today, which is now a landmark, not for Indian hospitality, but for Indian freedom. It is ironic that the Taj in many ways is like the Express, has stood the test of time, has withstood the onslaught of terrorism, has risen like the phoenix from the ashes, and showed the world that you can keep us down for a while, but we will prevail. And the reason why the Taj prevails is because the Taj has in its DNA three things: compassion, excellence, and most importantly, the affection of its guests. These are guests who don't come to your hotel to have a meal. They come to your hotel to have an experience. People don't read a newspaper to get the news. They get to read a newspaper for enrichment. Ultimately, consumers don't buy brands, they buy benefits. I was telling Anant earlier, you don't buy Colgate, you buy the whitest teeth. It so happens that in your mind, Colgate is the biggest provider of that benefit. So having laid out that premise initially, I will now start with Anant, since he is the youngest on the panel, but wisdom, and George Bernard Shaw famously said, wisdom doesn't necessarily come with age. You carry a very, very strong legacy on your shoulders. You also carry a legacy that is now in troubled times. You know, people blame Modi for Godi media and this media and that media. Khushro Irani of The Statesman famously said, the press in India is as free as it chooses to be. So, well, I don't want to get into, who's doing what. When you wake up every morning and you have the burden of this legacy or the joys of this legacy, what are the things that actually drive you? And most importantly, what are the things that worry you?
Oh, it's a great intro and a great question. No, I think, I think what Khushruji said, I think that's what, drives all of us, not just me, but the whole organization, is that people keep saying, I keep getting asked, how do you withstand the pressure? All the government, and I keep reminding myself and the team and I tell people that the stronger the government, the more the pressure. It's the case in every country and at any point in time. But if we are true to our jobs, if we are true to what we stand for, and if we keep doing it consistently, we don't have any agenda. We're not against anyone. We're not out to, hurt anyone. We're not out to bring down governments. That's not what drives us. What drives us is, as you said, the truth. What drives us is, can we stand what we are known for? The emergency you brought up, it happened in the 70s, but we're still associated with that. You didn't rehearse this. This came to you spontaneously.
I never rehearse, sadly.
Spontaneously, this came to you, the emergency. When you think of Express, think of emergency. There are people who weren't born during the emergency who still think of Express when think of the emergency. So I think as long as we are honest to ourselves, I think we're able to, sort of do what we're known for. And I think the very fact that, there is an impact to what we do. So that's the important thing. It's great that we can, beat our chests saying we're courageous and, we can feel good about ourselves. But the fact is that, we can only do it if there is profit. And we're able to be profitable today because the audiences appreciate and respect that. And they wouldn't appreciate and respect that if our journalism didn't have impact, right? So when we did Panama Papers, Government of India, we made a lot of temporary enemies at that particular point in time, many of whom may be your clients.
Not my clients, but many of whom are your friends.
Are my friends, yes. But the Government of India had, 24,000 crores of undeclared assets. Government of India found just by reading the Indian Express and Panama Papers. There was a bureaucrat, famously, I think last 6 months ago who used to shut down this athletic stadium to walk his dog. It took 2 months of investigation to go get photographs, put it on the front page. At least after that, you had 3 athletic teams who were able to train past 6 p.m. because of the journalism that, we had done. I don't know how many of you know, we've done this piece recently about the migrant laborers from India who were building all the infrastructure for the World Cup. 7 of whom died building this. Not 1 rupee of compensation or was given. We investigated the circumstances. One of the people actually, killed himself, sadly. Went for this, went to, I don't know what exactly he was doing, but he was a migrant laborer who went, got paid less than he was promised, continued to work, couldn't take the pressure, he was full of debt, killed himself, and the authorities didn't even inform the family. And when the family called saying, where is this guy, where's my husband, where's my father, they say, look, he's killed himself, please come and collect the body on your expense. So I'm saying, if we were not driven to bring the truth through events like this, we wouldn't be profitable, we wouldn't have the respect of the consumer, and we wouldn't be consistent with what the branding that you remember from the 70s. So I think, no, I don't think anything really scares me. I think what scares me is that can we keep doing this consistently? And we've created a culture that I think does that.
Well, that should be easy because R.K. Lakshman famously said that if India didn't have politicians, he'd be out of work. So, you'll have a lot to do in the years to come, because I don't think corruption is going away in a hurry. I mean, we may have AQI going down, but I don't think corruption ever will, which, by the way, is a good thing. Coming to the Taj, and I want to come back to the digital a bit later. Coming to the Taj, you came here after 30 years of working abroad, but your roots were in India. You passed out of Pusa. At that time, the Taj was as formidable a brand. So two things. Number one, when you took up this assignment, what did you feel about the Taj then, and what do you feel about it today?
Actually, Suhel, let me start with what you said about the brand. If I remember correctly, you said it has the affection, compassion, and excellence that it has. And Anant, I'll just pick up a couple of words he mentioned for the audience. One was responsible, and the other was culture. Right? Now, we have had 120 AGMs, and we are the oldest operating company of Tata Group. A lot of people think it's Tata Steel, but it's actually Indian Hotels. So that's number one. Our culture is defined in the three letters called Taj, which stands for trust, awareness, and joy. Easy to remember, no marketing jargon. Every employee in every property, at corporate, or wherever else in the field across the globe, and these three core values is exactly the trust of all your stakeholders, the awareness of your community, and the joy in doing whatever you do. So I think, and on the responsible, so culture I addressed and what you said, I would say responsible, profitable growth. That's what Indian Express has been doing, and that's, I think, in the DNA of Tata Group companies, and we have also been on this journey of responsible, profitable growth. So when I came, I have to say, I did not know what it meant to have the responsibility of carrying this legacy forward. It was far stronger than what I thought when I left India at the age of 25. Right? So it was a complete new experience. Of course, Taj was always known as a brand, but what it meant in India, what it will mean tomorrow in this very city for this hotel and Taj Mahal Palace for this tomorrow and day after, how we will light up the building to stand together with the government to support the nation. I think that's very, very special. It's very special. It's synonymous for the ethos, the pathos of the brand, of the culture, of that 120 AGMs that we have had, opening of Taj Mahal Palace in 1903. So it'll be 119 years on Founders' Day, which is 16th of December. So there is a lot of things that I learned. And the biggest game changer for a lot of reasons was COVID-19, when we were locked down. You know, the industry was locked down. Our revenues dropped to zero. But the way we conducted ourselves completely made a big change. And I doubt if I would have thought and did together with the entire management team what we did. And that is what I call evolution, learning, and humility. And that is something maybe I had maybe thought and dreamt of the palaces and the safaris and all those wonderful movies that were existing even before I came. But since then, a lot changed in the 2 years of COVID, and a lot changed in the Indian hospitality landscape, and I see things very differently than that time. We were always like very well-known company. We were always the largest Indian hospitality ecosystem, getting challenges from international, but today we are undisputed leader on the Indian subcontinent in number of hotels and many things. So I think all in all, I did not think all this will happen, but it all happened, and it happened well. And had somebody told me, can you guess this would be happening, then I would have said, yes, it's possible, but maybe I would have said 2025 and not 22, 23. So the journey, despite the COVID, has been great. And it's an honor to be a part of such a legacy and take it forward.
So it's interesting. You know, there are many brands today, and there was a very interesting book written by Kenichi Ohme, who was the then managing partner of McKinsey Japan in the 90s, called A Borderless World, where he talked about marketing actually becoming borderless. Today, both you gentlemen are in a very strange situation. You're in businesses that are consumer touch, consumer centric. You know, I touch my newspaper, I see the digital avatar. In your case, I stay in your hotels, I eat your food, blah, blah, blah. While the Taj has gone global, and to my mind, in a symbolic manner, what are the challenges Indian Express would have to go global? And when will you become that point of reference, like let's say The Guardian is today?
I don't know. I'd like to believe that the Indian Express is a point of reference for India when people abroad consider. I mean, our podcast is recommended in, I think, 3 South Asian study classes at the University of California, the University of California's. When I had the opportunity to meet Tim Cook on his visit to India, you know, his team, I was waiting for him for about 5 minutes outside the office, and his team said, look, we've used the Indian Express to research for his visit. And I think the reason, you know, we as a digital news group, Suhel, we are doing 200 million users a month. We're one of the largest in the world. We're not even the top 5. We're not even the top 4 largest in India. We're number 4 right now. We should. I want to obviously be number 2, and you know, then eventually number 1. There is so much audience growth left in India for us. So we launched Gujarati in October. We want to launch Telugu soon. We're now doing 7 languages. I think we'll be doing 10 languages by the end of next year. So I think India as a market is still, I feel we can still, after 90 years with digital, we have the opportunity of penetrating much, much more than we have. And there's still a lot of opportunity of growth to do that. That's the first. The second is, I think abroad, it's a very, the whole ecosystem is very different. It's much, much more evolved. And I think it takes a very different DNA really to go there and kind of think beyond the Indian diaspora. And if you go there thinking only for the Indian diaspora, you're finished. I can't explain why, you would probably explain better, but you know, then the product is limiting, it will not grow. So I think the short answer is that I think we have a long way to, a lot of growth to do in India. And we don't have, no matter how much money we keep deploying to do this, to do it sustainably, we have our hands full.
Yeah, so we've had many offline conversations, Puneet, and I've always said that the day you continue to be an Indian hotel in New York, you will never work. You've got to be a New York hotel in New York, which happens to be of Indian origin. And that is a huge challenge, because the Indians who will go there will want their aloo ke parathe and, idli and sambar and mess it up for everyone else. I mean, in a manner of speaking. So when you are wanting to further expand overseas, look at what Thailand has done, but again, within its confines. Thai hospitality has always been special, but their language skills haven't. Today, the Taj has everything going for it. You have language skills, English. You have the entire backbone of digital in the form of TCS and other Tata companies. Where do you think lie the lacunae or the opportunity, to use Anant's word, where do you think is the opportunity for Taj to go truly global? Not to have outposts, but to have presence which is meaningful, experiential, and engaging.
Wow. So let me start by first complimenting the brand. I don't know how many people in this audience would know that for 2 years in a row, Taj was rated as world's strongest hotel brand by Brand Finance, and the same group has rated Taj as the top brand across all sectors in India. So that means insurance, banking, everything included. So I think some of those things that we do are right. We've expanded to 3 hotels in Dubai in operation, 4th one under development under the Taj name. Our 250th hotel that we signed is for a Diriyah Gate development where the royal family comes from in Riyadh. Should be up and running in 4 years. I think one is a customer perspective, and the other is an investor perspective. So we not only have to take care of one stakeholder, of course, customer is the king, but investors are also important. So the kind of business model that we embarked upon, or the kind of business model we embraced, will make our growth very selective in international markets. That's number one. So that business model is based on management contracts or operating leases. We are not going to buy assets as Indian hotels. If somebody as a strategic partner, whether from within the group or outside comes, then we'll do that. But that's not a model that companies work on in today's day and age. The second very important factor for us going forward would be aligning ourselves with the airline strategy.
So the whole Air India integration.
Integration. So I think wherever Air India is flying to, I give an example like Frankfurt, you have both Air India and Vistara flying to. If we get a 120 or a 150 room hotel in Frankfurt, suddenly it starts making sense, because with that national airline and that kind of also belonging to the group, you can easily get 30, 40 rooms occupied just through that. So maybe Frankfurt, because it's German speaking, would not have been on our strategic map before, but suddenly it becomes relevant. It's all about relevance, and we are living in a very dynamic world. Things keep changing and evolving. So I think important hospitality hubs, we are very blessed that our forefathers or our predecessors acquired the leasehold for the Pier in New York, and we had also the St. James and Buckingham Gate in London. These are the two largest lodging markets of the world. The new food capital of the world is Dubai. So the one which we are missing is really Paris. If you get that, slowly you start becoming a truly sustainable and a responsible global brand, which we are, but that will also keep evolving. So we cannot just stay where you are. You have to keep in tune with time and keep, improving your growth prospects across the globe, and not lose your leadership or pole position in your home market.
I want to come to, and I think we have only about 9 or 10 minutes. I want to come to the last bit. Both of you are also in domains which have severe public engagement and public opinion. I mean, people will comment on an op-ed or will comment on an editorial stance or a story that you write. In a digital age, even more so, because today you can be absolutely stupid or intellectually innocent and yet pass a comment, because who's to care? So anonymity coupled with intellectual innocence is a lethal combination for any intelligent person to handle. I mean, how do you handle someone who's both stupid and anonymous? So you never know who's stupid and why he's stupid. Obviously, it also paraphrases some very bright people who are able to counter a claim that is made either by a hotel or by a newspaper. How do you think the digital landscape has affected your business, and where do you see the digital opportunities?
I think we love being disagreed with, always have, in physical and even on the digital version. There's much more disagreement on digital than there is agreement. That's just fundamentally, I think anonymity brings out the anti-establishment person in everyone. So, they just, however big you are, if you say something, you'll get, a lashback. And newspapers specifically are, it's great to shoot the messenger. So whatever you don't, that happens a lot. But Suhel, you know what? I love this. I appreciate it. We have, we love engaging with the comments. We want more comments. We want to engage. Well, you asked me earlier what scares me. Actually, what scares me is if that stops happening. What scares me, and generally, actually, what scares me is a lot of the privileged people I kind of meet, the members of chambers, or maybe some people in this room, people who use Taj frequently. I sense, and tell me, you would know better, I sense a lot of apathy for free speech. I sense a lot of people are beginning to be like, who cares about free speech, yaar? Like, I want a golden visa to Dubai, that's all I care. You're so right. There is a feeling that, this free speech is a fight that's for journalists, for Litfest lovers, for academics to fight, and not for anybody else. And, that And I think that's, so I'm going into, I'm not answering quite your question, but I think that's the challenge, right? Like, how do we convince everyone that free speech is at the center of innovation, that free speech is at the center of being India, of what I, recognize as India? Why so many people, I know from, English school educated people want to go abroad, but one of the reasons I would never think of it is because I have a view of India. I think free speech is the center of that. Free speech is, asking your teacher a question in class. Free speech is choosing who you want to marry. Free speech is choosing which hotel you want to stay at, That's all free speech. Innovation has, why are 6 Silicon Valley companies controlling the world today? Because that culture creates innovation, as opposed to a Chinese, digital ecosystem, which is kind of a copying rather than innovating, but one that's been created by regulation.
So I've answered this in a lecture 10 days ago in New York. Let me paraphrase the Indian situation. I don't say it's a Malays or anything. Number one, for far too long, we've been unforgiving of failure. If someone fails in India, you really look down upon him. Steve Jobs failed. Bill Gates failed. People drop out of school, college, the whole neighborhood will come or matam machayenge. Keep, oh my God, it's worse than a funeral. So that is number one. Number two, the average Indian doesn't want to confront. He wants someone else to confront on his or her behalf. I'm from Calcutta. I call it the Amake Dhore Rakho syndrome. If there are two people in Calcutta fighting, and I'm as Bengali can be, I will tell my friend, I'm going to attack that guy, but you keep holding me from the back. I'll pretend as I'm going to beat him up, but you keep saying, no, don't. That way I don't get beaten up, but I'm still showing myself to be aggressive. That's what I call the second Indian syndrome. The third is what you said. We don't understand. And I'm often asked, like today I was asked on the flight, how do you say these things that you do? I said, mind and mouth. The tragedy is, scholarship has actually declined in India. And I'm saying this very seriously. I'm 59, so I don't need to pretend. People don't read enough. People don't debate enough. Narayan Murthy said, as long as you disagree and are not disagreeable, it's a fair world. We don't challenge the status quo. If a client asks you to jump, you will say how high, not why. So it's all changed. Nowadays in advertising, we would walk in like lions. Today, even a rat is proud that he's a rat and not in advertising. Advertising guys walk in and say, oh, theek hai ji, haan, jo bolenge. And it's the wife of the chairman who takes a decision based on what her milkman has told her about the ad he saw at his home the night before. How bizarre is that? So I totally agree with you. Free speech is missing because parenting is missing. And parenting is missing because even parents want to toe the line. When you and we both have, small children, when we go to schools, I can tell you, the parents that I see, it's almost civility, as if the school principal or the school owner is demigod. For what? Why are we decrying the legacy that we have in India of debate, of dissent, which your grandfather promoted, which you continue to promote, and I'm proud of what the Indian Express does. But the tragedy, it's far and few between. And I'm telling you, as someone who's seen the world, if we don't stand up now, we never will. Silence is complicit when you take on the state. It's important to take on the state. And people blame Narendra Modi, blame this person, blame that person. Everyone is the same. Everyone wants pliant media and pliant people. You have to decide whether you want to be a goat or a lion. You can't be both. On one day goat, one day lion. Never works. So, coming to the last 3 minutes on more pleasant digital topics again, having established that we are a great country, which we are, by the way. I ended my New York lecture by saying, they said, but you'll have poverty, you'll have this, you'll have this. I said, India is like the bumblebee. Aerodynamically, the bumblebee can't fly because of its size. But the bumblebee doesn't know that. It flies happily. If you were to do a list, we should have failed in 1952. But vada pav khao or zindagi jiyo, no one cares. So on the basis of vada pav and experience, Puneet, you are in the most treacherously consumer-sensitive business. If I don't get my tea, I would want to burn the place down, not me. Well, perhaps. How do you see this new digital world treating service businesses, where there is so much of angst, there's so much of anger, there is immediacy of demand, and then there is this amplification in social media, so reputations. So how are you, as the head of the Taj, approaching this entire conundrum?
I see it as an opportunity. It's a big, big, big opportunity, especially for brands like us to have a reach overnight, in seconds, in US, in UK, in our, to promote our properties in sub-Saharan Africa. So there is no substitute to this. The only question is how much are you leveraging digital and how much you're using. I am also a firm believer of print. There is, on the Indian subcontinent, there is a generation of people who like to feel the paper in their hand. They're not going to scroll it on an iPad or a laptop or whatever. So I do believe that you need to find, based on the kind of brands you are promoting, a right balance between the two. And, you said we have so much of compassion and affection of our stakeholders. I would not call it the chairman's wife, but the stakeholders' wives. And now I realize how many milkmen I have to find who give opinion about the Taj.
Who may not be selling milk. We'll come to the end. I just want to end on a note of genuine optimism and genuine affection. And all of you are lucky, blessed, privileged to be in this room to listen to people who are custodians of a legacy. There are very few opportunities all of us get to listen to legacy custodians. We listen to professionals, great marketing people. But let me tell you, as someone who has observed this really closely, it's a very, very tough act. It's not just a leap of faith, it's an article of faith. When every day you have to print a newspaper which must stand by the truth, which must amplify the truth, and which must completely engage with the customers in an ecosystem crafted out of the truth, it's a monumental task. It's a burdensome responsibility because it takes two things into account: craft and conscience. The craft of writing and the conscience of what you're saying and what you're doing. Very similar to what the Taj is. Every time a guest walks in with aspiration, inspired by what you may have said, what you may have done in communication or whatever. Meeting those aspirations, surpassing those expectations is a task performed every nanosecond. It's a tough task. In a digital world, which we are discussing here, it's even more microscopic, it is more nuanced, and people are observing it every day. So it's a tough act, but then someone's got to do it. And I'm glad these two are the ones who are doing it. Thank you so much, and have a splendid evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Suhel. Thank you.